Hello, coaches. Welcome back. It's Coach KW here. Hope you're all well. Today, I'm going to kick off three sort of mini episodes on futsal. Today, we're going to go over basically a bunch of the formations that you might consider. When I play futsal, I'm playing futsal with my teams to get better at soccer. I'm not a futsal specialist at all. I'm a soccer coach who knows a bit about futsal, and I like using futsal in the wintertime because it really works on a whole bunch of skills with my players, namely that close ball control, the ability to read the play, scanning, reacting to your teammates, really all the things that come from playing in small spaces that require quick actions and quick thinking. That's what I love about futsal. And so really these three bits that I'm going to do go off of my last video. I hope you saw my why you should play futsal in the wintertime. And I went through a whole bunch of reasons there. Today I'm going to go over the different formations that you would consider on the court as a soccer coach playing futsal. So I have a whole bunch of slides. We'll go through them. We'll look at some of the attacking components and defending components as well. And we'll leave it at that. And the other two episodes I'm going to do, one is going to be on some of my favorite activities that I like to do. I have 4 activities that we'll highlight. And the other video talks about how to play out of the back, which might be the most challenging piece of playing futsal because, again, small court, lots of pressure, and you can't use your keeper as that spare player. So keep an eye out for those. Watch all 3. Subscribe, like, share with your fellow coaches, and let's get into these formations and setups that you might consider using if you play futsal, and we'll get into those slides now. Okay, so we're talking about futsal basics and formations. Now, in futsal, formations are really more of a reference or a starting point because futsal is so fluid. The players interchange frequently on the fly throughout the game, trying to take advantage of space and opportunities. So players will have roles, but they also have to understand that the role that they start in after a restart might not be the one that they perform as the game or the play moves along. So it's really important that that fluidity of your players gets to be part of their way of thinking and not be so ingrained as the outdoor game where it's, no, I'm a center back, I stay back here, I'm a striker, I'm the left winger, etc., etc. Formations can morph quickly also into one or another. As the game goes, you may defend in one formation and attack in another, as we'll take a look. But let's take a look at some of the basic formations that are out there that you might consider. So one of the most common, most basic ones is the 2-2 or the box, where you set up with 2 players forward and 2 players back, or 2 players left and right, however you want to consider it. And you defend in this box and you attack in this box. Right now, we're just looking at the overall picture of what this might look like. Now, again, these formations will change a lot, but this is the straight up, very common 2-2. Similar to this, and maybe a little bit more better in terms of coming from the outdoor game, is the diamond, where basically you take the box and you turn it on its side. Because here you kind of have those defined roles of a number 6 or a number 8, that defending player in the back. You've got 2 wide players, 7 and 11, and you've got somebody up front, a striker. But again, attacking and defending, this is going to morph and move and change as the play goes along, but it is helpful to have that sort of mentality of like, hey, someone also always has to be the person in the back protecting in case of a counterattack, etc., etc. There's a couple of Y formations that can happen. Here's the first one, the 1-1-2, where we have 1 player in the back, a center player, and 2 wide players. And again, we'll take a look at the attacking and defending formations. But this is one that tends to work well as well because you've got sort of that triangle pivot in the middle where players can move around, plus a player that is responsible for taking care of what's happening in the back. You're necessarily going to defend in these formations, but we'll take a look at that in a second. You can invert this Y, so now you have 2 players in the back, a center and a forward player. There are official names, alas and pivots and things like that. Again, I'm not a futsal expert. I'm a soccer coach who plays futsal. But this is another formation when attacking or defending and setting up that you can set your players in where you have 2 defenders, and now so your triangle is deeper with the player up front. And then lastly, sometimes you'll see teams set up in a 3-1 with a line of 3 and 1 player, and those 2 wide players actually acting like wing backs. So it almost kind of transitions through a diamond back and forth. The struggle with this one is that, remember, there's no offside in futsal, so that back line of three is not holding a restraining line like an offside line in the outdoor game, and so it can be penetrated with balls in behind pretty easily, so not necessarily how we defend. Speaking of defending, most of these formations, when defending, they morph into a box or a diamond shape that rotates to meet the point of attack. Because, like in all types of soccer, the idea is to deny the central scoring area, the middle of the court, from the ball and the team occupying that and getting a good shot. Remember, that net is only 3 meters by 2 meters. It's kind of narrow. And so a lot of goals are scored by getting that ball to the back post for a tap in. And that's what you're trying to do when you're defending. You're trying to set your team up so it's difficult for that ball to cut across diagonally from one side of the court to the other for a player coming in on the backside. Just like hockey with the play to the back post, trying to tuck it in as the goalie comes across the crease. It's the same concept in futsal. You're trying to get the keeper to move because the net is so small. It's just more of a challenge of taking that direct shot. And of course, those compact shapes really are designed to try and prevent that from happening, from taking that ball and getting it across from one side to the other. So most of the shapes that we looked at when defending end up collapsing down into a box of some sort, and the box will rotate so that there's a player facing the point of attack, the player with the ball. But as that box rotates into a diamond and such, it maintains that shape because the idea is you're trying to deny a quick pass through the middle. So if the ball is out here, this player is keeping it from coming this way. And if the ball moves, the whole unit moves so that it doesn't open up these seams and gaps as it goes through. So when we're attacking, we can look at those shapes that we're looking at first, we'll look at again, but futsal is very fluid. So that shape that you're in and those positions that you've placed your players aren't necessarily where they're going to always be as the game goes along, because futsal is very much a high movement game. Players and the ball rotate quickly because the idea is you're trying to unbalance a good defense that's in that box shape, trying to get one or two players pulled out of position to make that gap so that you can either dribble or pass to get to either the central area or to cut the ball across for a back post attempt. Usually when you're playing, always you're trying to keep at least one player back as a safety net that's at the back of the attack, but that doesn't always mean it's the same player all the time because, again, as you'll see, lots of rotations going on. And we talked about in the first video about how futsal is great for 1v1s. If you can win your 1v1, you can immediately make that advantage because now the next play is a 2v1 or a 3v2 or even a 4v3. And so the idea is if you can win your 1v1s in your attack, you instantly now have a numerical advantage for a few seconds that you should try to take advantage of because it's a small compressed space. That play is going to get back in, but the idea is because futsal is very quick, small spaces, you're trying to move that ball real quick. You're trying to take advantage of that new opportunity after beating one player to try and gang up on another to double your advantage. So here you can see here's a 2-2 with attacking, but the players can interchange and rotate so that if a player pulls out, maybe another player pulls into their spot, or maybe this player makes a run into the middle, which means this player has to be aware enough to hold their position to be another defender. You've just taken this box and now we've turned it into a Y. You'll see that in a bunch of the slides as we go forwards. Here's that diamond. It's the same thing. We've just turned it on its side, but it's not like these players are going to stay out wide all the time because we're trying to make runs in and through and to the back post. And so the shape becomes very fluid. But again, the idea is to be aware of on transition when losing the ball, can we both press and get back into a shape as we go back to defend our own goal. Here's that 1-1-2, the opposite of that Y. And now you can see again, it may start out looking in theory like this, but again, this player might push through here looking for a pass from one of the wide players. Maybe this player steps out, this player steps in, and now this player realizes I have to come in and defend. So again, very fluid. The reverse of that Y, where we have two players and one here, but you can see that I have that player pulled out wide, so now this player is coming in to take up the space that this player vacated. Again, I just want you to get the idea of while you have a shape, it can become very fluid, and it's part of the game to teach your players to rotate and replace each other as they move forward. And then here's that 3-1 with those quote unquote wing backs as they get up the field, and now you're attacking with three with one player behind. Again, the same things go into play. Perhaps the ball earlier on, this player came up here, so instead of coming straight line, maybe this player is cutting in, or maybe this player made the step up, and so this player was smart enough to be the last defender as it goes forward. So that's a quick overview of some of the different attacking and defending shapes that you might see in futsal if you're deciding to play inside. The most common are the diamond/squares, just because they're simple and effective. The other ones can be as effective as well, but have a little bit more nuance and moving parts to it. But again, if you're coming from soccer, you're looking for something that can mimic what you're used to out in the game. Perhaps the diamond is the best start place for that, or maybe one of the Y formations might work for you. But in either case, when you start to defend, you tend to drop into that box square/diamond to maintain the compactness in the middle of the field. So I hope this quick hit was helpful. This is the first of three, so make sure you keep your eye out for how you might think about playing out of the back. And then lastly, I have one on 4 of my favorite activities. They're all going to be quick, short videos, but that's the whole point of these, is I want you to be able to digest them. I tend to go on longer than I always think. So, having these short videos, I love to see how this goes. So remember, like, share, subscribe. Love to hear the comments. And until next time, I'll see you real soon. Bye.